The skies of Earth turned dark as a massive alien fleet covered the horizon, their ships like burning red scars against the heavens, stretching from one end of the sky to the other, making day turn into night. The aliens wasted no time before broadcasting their voices across every human device, their deep, mocking tones echoing in languages translated instantly, declaring Earth weak, unworthy of survival, and destined to kneel before them. Cities froze in fear, people huddled in their homes, and governments scrambled to open talks, sending desperate pleas for mercy. But every word was met with cruel alien laughter that thundered through the airwaves. In a hidden underground base far below the ruined streets of Washington, Commander Rena sat still, her eyes locked on a glowing screen as she listened without expression. Around her, officers panicked, whispering about surrender or evacuation, but she leaned forward calmly and whispered a strange code into her communicator, a sequence so cryptic, even her closest team members could not understand it. Suspense filled the room as she closed her eyes for a moment, as if she were waiting for something unseen, and her soldiers could not tell if she was confident or desperate, but they all felt a storm was coming. The alien fleet grew bolder by the hour, demanding Earth's full surrender or total destruction, their commanders jeering at human leaders during live transmissions, calling them insects crawling on a dying planet. World leaders faltered, torn between surrender and resistance, unsure if fighting would mean extinction. But Rena did not wait. She pressed her hand against a hidden console and activated a program long kept in the shadows, known only to her as Project Ember, a weapon so secret that even the engineers who built it did not know its full purpose. Her team looked at her with unease, whispering that Ember was unstable, unfinished, and dangerous, but she gave no explanation. Meanwhile, alien scout ships descended into human cities, dragging people into the streets like cattle, treating them as experiments, laughing at their terror. Yet before alien arrogance reached its peak, one scout ship hovering over New York suddenly exploded in a ball of fire, its wreckage raining down onto the Hudson. Confused alien commanders demanded answers, convinced humans were too weak to cause such a strike, but Rena's silent smile was the only clue. The retaliation came quickly. Alien warships regrouped, unleashing beams of energy that tore through buildings, setting entire regions ablaze, leaving scars on the Earth itself. Fires raged across Asia and Europe, but then something shifted in the skies. Human satellites, long thought to be powerless against alien technology, suddenly came alive with strange energy, redirecting the alien beams back at their origin. The invaders froze as their own weapons bent through the sky and slammed into their own ships, blowing apart several vessels in quick flashes of light. Across the world, billions of humans who had gathered around screens gasped as alien ships burned in the very skies they once dominated, and cheers broke out in places that had been silent with fear only hours before. But Rena's face did not show victory, only a grave warning. For she knew this was not the end, but the true beginning of the war. Angered, the aliens unleashed the heart of their power. Thousands of ships glowing red like molten stars, descending together in a storm of fire. Against such overwhelming force, humanity seemed helpless, and despair returned to the streets. Yet in her underground command, Rena stood tall, her voice sharp as she revealed the true nature of Project Ember, a secret weapon hidden high in orbit, invisible until now. Built from captured alien technology, fused with human design, designed not just to destroy ships, but to ignite the very stars themselves. Her own officers froze in horror, warning her that Ember was unstable, that one wrong move could consume not only the aliens, but humanity too. Rena's reply was steady and cold. If Earth burns, so will their stars. Her words silenced the room. The alien commanders mocked once more, their laughter shaking human broadcasts as they declared humanity suicidal and insane, calling Rena a fool. But their arrogance crumbled in seconds as Ember activated. Energy rippled through space, invisible waves striking the stars closest to the alien fleet. Slowly at first, then violently, the stars pulsed, trembled, and erupted, their unstable cores exploding outward in streams of fire. Alien motherships shattered as their suns betrayed them, their fleets torn apart in blazing bursts of destruction that lit the universe like endless firestorms. Across distant galaxies, alien civilizations tuned in, shocked as news spread. Humans had made the stars themselves burn. The mockery stopped, replaced by trembling fear, for no species had ever dared to use the stars as weapons. The galaxy shifted overnight. Some alien leaders, terrified, begged for peace, sending frantic signals before their fleets could collapse. Others vowed revenge, retreating into the darkness of deep space, whispering promises of return. Rena's team was torn, some celebrating the impossible victory, others trembling at the consequences of unleashing Ember, wondering if humanity had awakened a power even they could not control. Yet across Earth, nations that once stood divided now stood together, united under one banner for the first time in history, because survival demanded unity. Still, amidst the celebrations, strange signals echoed from the edge of the galaxy. Alien voices, not of the defeated fleet, but of new enemies watching silently, preparing perhaps for their own move. And so a legend was born. Across galaxies, whispers grew about the reckless, furious species that turned humiliation into vengeance, the fragile humans who had burned stars. Earth, once mocked as a weak world, became a name carried with fear and respect in every alien court, a symbol of resistance against the empires that ruled the cosmos. Commander Rena stood on the rooftop of a ruined city, watching the smoke clear as the first sunrise broke through the ashes. Her eyes reflected the flames of war still burning in orbit. She whispered to herself words carried by the wind, words that seemed to speak to the universe itself. We were mocked, but now they will remember us forever. And as silence fell, the screen of history faded into darkness, leaving only the haunting echo of a species that had dared to turn defeat into fire and fire into legend, a warning and a promise that the war of humanity had only just begun. The alien voices thundered across every channel, their demand simple yet terrifying. Surrender or be destroyed. Kneel or burn, submit or vanish into the void of history. They broadcast images of Earth's cities, comparing them to dust, mocking humans as weak creatures clinging to a dying world. Leaders of great nations gathered through shaky video calls, their faces pale, torn between fear and pride, unsure if humanity should bow or fight. Some shouted for surrender, fearing extinction, while others demanded defiance even if it meant death. The world hung in silence, waiting for a decision that could end it all. But deep underground, in her command chamber, filled with glowing screens and nervous officers, Commander Rena did not wait. Her voice was calm but firm as she spoke a single order that few understood. Activate Project Ember. The words dropped like stones in a still pond, making her officers freeze, their eyes wide. Ember was a classified operation buried in layers of secrecy, a weapon whispered about in fragments, but never revealed. Even the scientists who had worked on it had no idea of its true scale. Some thought it was a bluff, a psychological weapon. Others believed it was unfinished, too unstable to ever be used. Yet Rena's hand moved with steady purpose as she pressed her palm against a glowing console, unlocking codes that had slept for years in silence. Around her, warning lights flickered, systems long dormant roared to life, and strange signals began to ripple through the network of satellites above Earth. Her team leaned in with panic. "Commander, we don't even know if Ember works," one officer said. Another whispered, "If it fires, it could destroy us too." But Rena's eyes never wavered. "If we do nothing, we are already destroyed," she answered. Above ground, alien scout ships hovered through cities, their lights sweeping the streets like hunters searching for prey. They captured humans at random, pulling them into the air with beams of energy, laughing as terrified screams filled the air. In London, one scout hovered above the River Thames, dropping debris into the water as crowds panicked on the bridges. In Tokyo, a ship blasted a monument into dust simply to show its power. The aliens mocked these acts, calling them examples of mercy, reminding Earth that total destruction had not yet begun. To them, humans were insects inside a glass jar, trapped and powerless. But inside their arrogance, a storm brewed. Somewhere above New York, one scout ship slowed, its sensors blinking strangely as if detecting interference. Onlookers below raised their eyes, expecting another cruel strike. But instead, the ship jolted violently, its red lights flickering. Before the aliens inside could react, an explosion erupted from within, tearing the ship apart in a roar of fire and raining fragments into the Hudson River. For the first time, alien laughter stopped, replaced with silence and confusion. Commanders demanded explanations across their channels, furious that humans could not have achieved such a strike. They dismissed it as an accident, yet unease spread like a shadow across the fleet. In the underground base, Rena's lips curved slightly into the faintest of smiles as her screens lit up with confirmation. Ember was moving. The sky turned into a battlefield of light and fire as the alien fleet regrouped, furious over the loss of their scout ship, their anger echoing through broadcasts that reached every corner of Earth, promising vengeance so absolute that no trace of humanity would remain. Without hesitation, the motherships opened fire, unleashing beams of red energy so bright they carved scars into the surface of the planet, entire city blocks evaporating in flashes, mountains shaking with violent tremors, and oceans boiling where the blasts touched the water. Fires spread across Asia, black smoke rising over Shanghai and Delhi, while in Europe entire skylines collapsed, monuments and homes crumbling under the weight of alien fury. Panic swept through humanity, people crying out, their hope from the earlier explosion fading fast as they watched the overwhelming storm of destruction, convinced once again that resistance was useless. Yet in the underground base, Commander Rena stood steady, her voice calm against the chaos, her hands moving across the glowing consoles as if she had been waiting for this moment. Satellites long thought to be passive eyes in orbit, suddenly lit with a strange power, their circuits charged by Ember's hidden code, redirecting beams of invisible energy. At first it went unnoticed, the alien commanders too consumed by their own destruction to see. But then something impossible happened. As they fired another barrage at Earth, their beams bent mid-flight, curving like rivers of light through the vacuum and slamming back into the very ships that had released them. One mothership erupted into a burning ball of metal, fragments scattering across the void, and another cracked in half, its wreckage spinning helplessly toward the atmosphere where it burned like a falling star. Shock rippled through the alien fleet. Their voices, once filled with arrogant laughter, now trembled with disbelief as they shouted across their channels, trying to explain the impossible betrayal of their own weapons. "This is not possible," one cried. "Their machines are primitive," another insisted. But doubt crept into every word and fear slithered where mockery had once ruled. Across Earth, the terrified crowds that had been hiding in basements, bunkers, and subway tunnels came alive as live feeds showed alien ships burning in the skies above. In Rio, children cheered as a massive alien cruiser split in two above the ocean. In Cairo, elders raised their hands to the heavens, crying tears of hope for the first time since the invasion began. The world's broken heart beat again with defiance. Yet for Rena there was no celebration. Her eyes remained sharp, her mind already racing ahead because she knew the aliens were only testing their strength, and the real battle was still coming. Her officers leaned close, some smiling, others trembling. "Commander, we did it," one whispered. But she shook her head slowly. "No," she answered. "This is just the beginning." Above the clouds, the surviving alien ships regrouped in silence, their lights flickering like wounded predators licking their wounds before striking again. They had underestimated Earth once, but now their fury was doubled, and they prepared to unleash their full might. On alien worlds light years away, other civilizations tuned in, watching through intercepted broadcasts, their leaders whispering among themselves about the strange, dangerous humans who could turn enemy weapons back against their masters. Whispers turned into fear, and fear turned into prophecy. Could a species so young truly defy empires that had ruled the stars for millennia? Yet back on Earth, Ember's power continued to rise, satellites redirecting blasts and protecting cities where moments earlier there had been only despair. Still, cracks appeared in the system, sparks of instability flickering on Rena's screens, warning her that Ember was not designed for endless defense. She knew that for every ship destroyed, dozens more were waiting, and she knew the aliens were clever, ruthless, and ready to adapt. As night fell across parts of Earth, the sky glowed red with burning wreckage, debris raining down in fiery streaks that lit the darkness like a cursed aurora. Survivors looked up, some whispering prayers, others chanting defiance, the mix of fear and courage blending into something Earth had not felt in centuries: unity. The battle was not just survival anymore. It was history being written in fire. Alien commanders snarled across their channels, their voices filled with hatred, vowing to unleash forces beyond imagination. In her underground command, Rena pressed her hands against the console, her voice steady even as warning sirens screamed. "Hold your ground," she told her team. "Every second we live, we fight. Every ship we burn, the galaxy watches." And in that moment, humanity stood taller than ever before, their weakness burning away in the furnace of war, replaced by something the aliens had not expected and could not destroy, the will to fight until the very stars themselves bowed before them. The alien fleet loomed heavier than ever, thousands of ships glowing with an angry red light, as if the stars themselves had bled into their hulls, their weapons humming with lethal power, their formations stretching across the night sky like a burning wall that promised only death. For a moment, Earth seemed hopeless again, because no matter how many ships Ember's redirected beams destroyed, more came to replace them, and the firestorm of alien fury only grew stronger. Cities trembled beneath the weight of the invasion, fires still burning in the ruins of Paris, Moscow and New York, and across the planet. People watched in silence, their fragile hope flickering like candlelight in a storm. In the underground command center, Rena's officers stared at the screens with pale faces, the sight of the massive alien fleet pressing down on them like a nightmare. "We cannot win this," one whispered, his voice breaking. Another gripped his headset so tightly, his knuckles turned white. "Our defenses are holding, but they won't last," he muttered. For a moment the air grew heavy, filled with despair, but then Rena stepped forward, her boots echoing against the metal floor, her eyes sharp and unblinking as she spoke, with the kind of calm that comes not from hope, but from absolute resolve. "It's time," she said softly, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Project Ember has one final layer." Her officers froze, glancing at each other in shock. "Commander, no," one gasped. "That system was never meant to be used. It's untested. It could destroy everything." Rena's hand hovered over a hidden console, the symbols glowing in strange colors as if alive. "It will destroy everything," she replied. "But not us alone." The room filled with whispers of fear. Ember was already a dangerous system, but its final layer had been sealed under the highest clearance, known only to Rena herself. With steady hands she entered the final codes, and the screens shifted to reveal something terrifying. An orbital weapon hidden far above Earth, camouflaged among the satellites, invisible to alien sensors, built from fragments of captured alien cores, fused with human engineering. It was not meant to shoot at ships nor even planets. It was meant to ignite stars. Gasps filled the room as the officers realized the truth. "You're going to burn the stars themselves," one said, his voice shaking. Another whispered, "Commander, if you use this, the galaxy will never forgive us." Rena turned, her eyes cold but unflinching. "If Earth burns, so will their stars," she said, her words like iron, her tone final. Silence fell across the command chamber, broken only by the hum of Ember awakening. Meanwhile, the aliens prepared their grand strike. Their commanders mocked humanity once more, broadcasting their cruel laughter across every human device, declaring that resistance was pathetic, that Earth's brief tricks were nothing but desperation, delaying the inevitable. "We will erase you, and no one will remember you existed," one alien voice boomed, dripping with contempt. Yet even as they laughed, strange readings began to appear on their sensors, ripples of energy coming from the stars closest to their fleet. At first they dismissed it as interference, but their voices soon grew tense. "The stars are unstable," one said. "Something is wrong." They argued in panic, their arrogance crumbling as data poured in, but it was already too late. Back in the underground chamber, the officers stared at their consoles as Ember's power surged, tendrils of energy reaching out across the void, touching the hearts of the nearest stars, feeding instability into their cores. "Commander, this is madness," an officer whispered. "If the stars go, so does everything around them." Rena's gaze was fixed on the main screen, her voice steady and sharp. "Then we make sure their everything burns before ours." Around her, fear and awe mixed, because none of them could deny the terrifying truth. Humanity had created not just a weapon, but a god-killer, something that no alien empire had ever dared to imagine. The alien fleet began to feel the consequences. Their massive ships flickered as energy currents swirled wildly, stars that had burned steady for millennia, now pulsing like dying hearts. The motherships tried to retreat, but gravitational surges pulled them back, trapping them in the storm of their own suns. Their commanders screamed in disbelief, shouting that humanity had broken the natural laws of war. And across Earth, as people huddled in ruined cities or watched from bunkers, the sky lit up in violent waves of light, as if the universe itself had caught fire. Children pointed upward with wide eyes. Survivors whispered prayers, their voices shaking. The alien fleet hung heavy in the sky like red storms waiting to break. Their glowing ships circled Earth, filling the horizon from every corner. People around the world watched in terror as the enemy prepared to strike again. Alien voices filled every broadcast, every signal, every frequency. "Your world is already lost," they mocked. "You fight like children with sticks. Surrender now and we may let some of you live." Their laughter rolled like thunder, cold and cruel. Cities shook not from bombs this time, but from fear itself. Humanity's hope rested in one command center hidden far underground, where Commander Rena and her team stood before a wall of screens. The silence in that bunker was heavy, broken only by the sound of machines humming. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Rena. She had revealed the truth of Project Ember, and even her most loyal officers had gone pale at the thought. The weapon was no ordinary defense. It was not a missile, not a bomb, not a shield. It was something that should never have existed. A star-killing weapon, built from alien fragments salvaged in secret over decades. The weapon did not target ships, it targeted suns themselves. By pushing unstable stars past their limits, Ember could turn them into firestorms that would burn everything around them. Her second-in-command, Elias, spoke with trembling words. "Commander, if you use Ember, you could set fire to whole systems. Entire worlds, even ones we don't know about, could die. This isn't war, it's extinction." His voice carried the weight of fear, and others in the room shifted uncomfortably. But Rena did not look away from the screen. Her eyes followed the alien mothership, a colossal shadow blotting out stars. "If Earth burns," she said softly but firmly, "then so will theirs. They mocked us, they hunted us, they called us unworthy. Let them feel the fire they unleashed." Above, the aliens prepared for their final strike. Hundreds of red ships aligned in perfect formation, their weapons glowing brighter than lightning. People on Earth prayed in churches, cried in shelters, and clutched loved ones as if it would be their last moment. Broadcasters kept filming, even as power flickered, desperate to capture what might be humanity's final hour. The alien voices roared again. "You think you can resist? You are ants beneath giants. Watch as we erase your sky." Beams of red light charged within the mothership, ready to fall like judgment. But deep in space, far beyond the enemy's sight, Ember awoke. Hidden satellites spread like sparks across the void, linking with a pulse older than any alien had seen. Captured reactors, once torn from fallen invaders, powered up with a low hum. The weapon locked onto a single star, the sun that burned near the alien fleet's supply line. The enemy thought it safe. They were wrong. Rena gave the order. "Fire, Ember." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The star pulsed once, twice, then roared with a fury older than creation itself. Its surface boiled and tore apart. Waves of unstable energy leapt outward, striking alien ships caught too close. In seconds, a dozen enemy vessels were shredded by fire hotter than any weapon. Then the shockwave grew. The mothership's shields strained, cracked, then shattered like glass. Flames swallowed half their formation. Across Earth, billions watched as alien arrogance turned to horror. On screens, their enemies no longer laughed. The invincible ship spun out of control, burning against the very light they thought untouchable. In alien command halls, panic erupted. The humans, they can burn stars. Pull back now!" But Ember did not stop. The chain reaction spread to another star nearby, then another, tearing holes in the alien fleet's path. Whole sectors became traps of fire. Alien admirals screamed orders no one could follow. Their empire had spent centuries ruling with fear, mocking every world they conquered. Yet in one day, in one strike, humans had made the galaxy tremble. Rena's bunker erupted in gasps as live feeds showed alien ships falling by the hundreds. Soldiers who had doubted her now stared in awe. Elias whispered, "We did it. They're burning." His voice was filled with shock, but also with dread. Because victory felt too large, too heavy, too dangerous. In the ruins of cities, crowds cheered through tears. Reporters shouted into cameras, "The invaders are falling. The humans have turned their own stars against them." Around the world, people who once felt powerless now screamed in triumph. Children in shelters clapped. Soldiers in trenches hugged. Leaders across nations raised their fists. Humanity had given the universe a message. That message spread fast. Across distant galaxies, alien species tuned into the human broadcasts they once ignored. They saw the fire raining from suns, the enemy ships crumbling into dust, and they heard the phrase repeated like thunder across human voices: "Humans made the stars burn." For the first time, the invaders' mocking words turned into silence. Fear replaced arrogance. Their empire had discovered a truth too late. Earth was not prey. Earth was fire. Still in the command bunker, Rena did not smile. Her hands rested on the console, her face pale under the glow of the screens. She knew what her officers did not yet understand. Ember was not just a weapon. It was a curse. For if humans could burn stars, others would learn to do the same. And once unleashed, such power could never be hidden again. Yet in that moment, none of that mattered, for the world above had survived. The red lights that once mocked Earth were now broken sparks drifting in the void. The enemy had been forced to retreat, their arrogance shattered. And as news spread to every corner of the galaxy, humanity's name was no longer whispered with pity, but spoken with fear. The stars had burned, and the legend of Earth had just begun. The skies above Earth were strangely quiet after the fire. Pieces of alien ships still glowed as they fell like dying meteors through the atmosphere. Oceans hissed when fragments struck the waves, and deserts lit up with short bursts of fire where wrecks crashed into the sand. Billions of humans stared upward in awe. They had survived the storm. But inside every survivor's heart, one question grew heavier than the silence: what happens now? In the hidden command bunker, Commander Rena stood before her team. Screens still showed burning stars, though many now flickered as the feeds collapsed into static. The alien empire had retreated, dragging the remains of their fleet into the dark. Some ships limped away, broken and sparking. Others vanished without a trace, fleeing faster than light. "They're pulling back," Elias whispered, voice sharp with disbelief. "They're running from us." He almost laughed, but the sound caught in his throat. Rena did not smile. "They're not gone, not yet. They will regroup, rebuild, and they will remember. This is not the end." Her words silenced the room. Everyone wanted to believe it was over, but she refused to give them a false dream. Project Ember had saved Earth, but it had also lit a fire across the galaxy. Reports came in faster than anyone could process. Some alien leaders, ones outside the Empire, had sent signals begging for talks with Earth. Others sent threats, promising revenge for daring to burn stars. Broadcasts from hidden networks in space called humans the Cursed Flame and the Destroyers of Light. Even species that had once ignored Earth now watched with fear. Humanity was no longer weak. It was dangerous. On the surface, Earth's leaders gathered in emergency councils. For the first time in history, nations that had spent centuries fighting each other spoke with one voice. The United Nations became more than a forum, it became a war room. Leaders stood before the cameras declaring, "Humanity will never kneel again. We stand as one." Crowds in ruined cities cheered, their voices echoing through streets filled with rubble. In the wreckage of Paris, survivors raised broken flags. In New York, firefighters climbed atop a shattered skyscraper to wave a banner stitched from scraps. In Beijing, schoolchildren painted suns on walls, calling them the fire that saved Earth. But not everyone cheered. In shadows and quiet rooms, debates turned bitter. Some scientists argued Ember was too dangerous to exist. "We've opened a door that should never have been touched," one shouted during a council meeting. "If they can burn stars, and now we can too, then the galaxy itself will collapse into chaos. What happens when another world fires back? What happens when stars fall like dominoes?" Fear spread through the leaders' faces, but Rena stood unshaken. She answered in her cold, clear tone, "The galaxy has always seen us as prey. Prey survives only by becoming something greater. We did not start this war, but we will finish it if they return." Her words silenced the chamber, though not everyone agreed. Some nodded with grim pride. Others turned away, haunted by visions of burning worlds. Meanwhile, strange signals filled the void of space. Deep sensors caught whispers from corners of the galaxy humans had never mapped. Unknown empires watched the fall of the invaders with hungry eyes. Some prepared fleets, others prepared messages. But none could ignore the new truth. Earth had entered the game of empires, and it had entered with fire. Among the alien empire itself, Chaos spread like wildfire. Some of their leaders, broken by Ember's strike, begged for peace. They sent out secret envoys, voices trembling as they admitted what no one had dared before. The humans cannot be mocked. They cannot be broken. Yet others in the Empire roared for vengeance. They gathered in halls of flame, swearing oaths under banners stained red. "We will return," their generals declared. "We will tear their world apart piece by piece until nothing remains but ash." The fires of war had dimmed, but their smoke still hung over Earth like a reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. Cities lay in ruins, seas carried the wreckage of fallen ships, and skies were scarred with streaks of ash and light where alien crafts had once burned. Yet in this destruction, something powerful had been born. Humanity, once mocked and treated as weak, now carried a name that spread far beyond its blue planet. Across the galaxy, whispers grew louder, repeating in every language, in every hidden corner, "The humans burned the stars." In refugee camps, survivors told the story again and again. A mother knelt by a campfire, her child resting against her shoulder, and whispered, "They thought we were nothing. But remember this, our people made the skies burn, and the galaxy will never forget us." In the ruins of Moscow, a soldier carved a symbol into broken stone, a circle with flames rising from its center, the mark of Ember. Across oceans, children played pretend, holding sticks like rifles and shouting that they were star burners, heroes who would never be slaves to any empire. Fear had become memory, and memory was slowly becoming legend. Galactic traders carried the story further than any human ship. In shadow markets, alien merchants spoke with wide eyes, their voices hushed as they described the night Earth's skies had turned into fire. Some called humans cursed, others called them saviors, but none dared to mock them anymore. Even the old empires, ones that had ruled for ages, felt a chill at the tail. They had laughed when Earth begged for peace. They had ignored the cries of a small, weak planet. Now they asked in secret meetings, what will humanity do next? Will they burn more suns? For the first time, Earth was not an afterthought. It was a name to fear. But for Rena, standing atop the ruins of a once great city, legend was nothing compared to the weight of reality. She looked out over broken buildings and streets filled with ash. The sunrise painted the horizon in colors of fire and blood, as if the world itself remembered the battle. She whispered to herself, her words lost in the wind. They mocked us. They thought we would bow, but now they will remember. The words were not a boast. They were a promise, spoken not with pride, but with the heavy certainty of someone who knew the cost of survival. Her officers joined her on the rooftop, each carrying their own scars. Shlias stood silently, his face lined with exhaustion. "We're legends now," he said bitterly, "but legends don't bury the dead." His eyes swept across the ruins. Rena did not argue. She only placed a hand on his shoulder and answered, "Legends don't end wars. They start them." In the months that followed, Earth rebuilt, but it did so with new purpose. The nations of the world formed a single council, not for politics but for survival. Factories that once built cars now built ships. Labs that once studied medicine now studied alien cores. Every broken city became both a reminder of loss and a forge of progress. Humanity was not content with survival. It was preparing for what was to come. Beyond Earth, signals grew stronger. Distant empires debated what to do with the new threat. Some wanted to crush humanity before it could grow stronger. Others argued to leave the humans alone, fearing that another strike might awaken Ember again. And somewhere, in the dark reaches of uncharted space, ancient eyes turned toward the small planet that had defied an empire. These watchers, older than the stars themselves, had seen many species rise and fall, but none had ever dared to burn the suns. Now they waited, silent, curious, perhaps even afraid. For the people of Earth, whispers of the future were both a comfort and a curse. Children in schools recited new songs about the star burners. Soldiers carried the emblem of Ember on their armor. Families rebuilt homes while telling stories of the night the skies turned red. And yet in quiet moments, when the fires of celebration faded, questions lingered. Had humanity crossed a line it could never return from? Would they always be remembered as survivors or as destroyers? Rena carried those questions heavier than anyone. In meetings with leaders, she listened to speeches of pride, but her thoughts always returned to the stars she had set aflame. Each sunrise reminded her of what had been lost. Each cheer from the crowds reminded her of the power she had unleashed. And each night, when she stood alone under the scarred sky, she wondered who was watching Earth now and when they would come. The legend of humanity spread faster than light, reaching corners of the galaxy where Earth's name had never been spoken. Some alien prisoners, once smug and mocking, now whispered prayers at the thought of humans. Others vowed revenge, sharpening their hatred in silence. And through it all, one truth echoed louder than any threat. Humanity had stepped onto the stage of empires not as servants, not as prey, but as fire. On the first anniversary of the invasion, Earth held a silent vigil. Billions of people stood beneath the open sky, candles in hand, honoring those who had fallen. The night was dark, quiet, and heavy, until suddenly the candles seemed to flicker in unison, as if stirred by a breath from the stars. A child looked upward and whispered, "They are watching us." And perhaps in some distant corner of the galaxy, they were. Rena remained on the rooftop long after the vigil ended, the city lights broken, but the stars bright above her. She closed her eyes, listening to the silence, feeling the weight of legend pressing down on her shoulders. Finally, she whispered, not to her team, not to her people, but to the galaxy itself, "We are no longer the hunted. We are the fire that hunts." And so the story of Earth became the story of the flame that could not be mocked, the species that burned the stars, the legend that would shape the wars of tomorrow. The galaxy trembled, the stars whispered, and in every corner of space, one truth could no longer be denied. The humans had risen. The legend of the star burners spread like wildfire, but legends had shadows, and in the shadows waited dangers greater than any fleet. Months after the last alien ship fled Earth's skies, life slowly began to return. Streets were cleared of rubble, families rebuilt broken homes, and factories forged not only weapons, but dreams of tomorrow. Yet even as Earth healed, the silence of space grew heavier, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. In the underground command center, Commander Rena studied new transmissions. The council chambers above her brimmed with celebration and pride, but down here the screens told a darker story. Strange signals echoed across the void, pulses too regular to be natural, but too distorted to be ordinary messages. Elias leaned over her shoulder, his face pale. "It's them again," he whispered. "But this isn't the same empire. The coding, it's older." His words made the room colder. Rena listened as the signals played through the speakers, a low, pulsing rhythm like a heartbeat. No words, no threats, only a steady reminder that something was watching. "How far?" she asked. A young officer swallowed hard before answering, "Beyond the mapped sectors. We don't even have charts that deep." Rena's eyes narrowed. The invaders who mocked Earth had been arrogant, but these were patient. And patience was more dangerous than arrogance. Meanwhile, on the surface, Earth's people struggled with new fears. Some embraced their new role as legends, wearing Ember's symbol proudly. Others whispered that humanity had cursed itself by burning stars, that one day the galaxy would demand a price too high to pay. In crowded markets, merchants told tales of alien spies blending among the crowds. In villages, elders swore they had seen strange lights crossing the skies at night. Fear grew quietly, like roots spreading unseen beneath the ground. One night the fear became real. An observatory in South America caught sight of a strange craft. No glowing red hulls like the Empire. No mocking broadcasts. Only a shape that moved in silence, black against the stars, as if the night itself had grown wings. The astronomers barely had time to record before the signal vanished, the craft dissolving into the void as if it had never been there. The report reached Rena within hours, and though no one else in the council believed it, she knew the truth. A new enemy had already arrived. Across the galaxy, whispers confirmed her fears. Traders spoke of worlds going dark overnight, stars dimming without a trace of battle. "Not burned," one alien whispered in a secret meeting, "but swallowed." The word spread like poison, a force that did not mock, did not threaten, did not conquer with pride, it simply erased. And now its eyes had turned toward Earth. Back in the bunker, Elias confronted Rena, his voice raw. "We survived the First Empire because you turned the stars against them. But what if this enemy doesn't fear fire? What if it feeds on it?" For once, Rena did not answer immediately. Her silence was heavier than her words. She finally spoke, her tone low and sharp. Then we will find another way. We will not be prey again. But deep inside, even she wondered, what weapon could stand against shadows that swallowed light? That night, Rena walked alone through the ruins of an old city. The air was still, the moon hidden behind smoke. Children slept in tents, their dreams filled with stories of ember. She paused at a broken statue and looked up at the stars. For a moment she thought she saw them flicker. As if something vast and unseen had passed before them, she whispered into the silence, "We are ready. Whoever you are, whatever you are, we will not bow." The stars did not answer, but somewhere beyond the edge of human maps, something stirred. The galaxy's oldest predators had heard the legend of the Starburners.